Leo Colovini is one of my favorite designers because his games usually have two features that I highly enjoy. First, simple rules that are easy to get into with few barriers for new people to play. Everyone's kind of playing on the same level because there's no game terminology that you have to understand before you get into the actual gameplay. Second, his games are highly interactive, where your actions impact some shared environment and other people can play off of that. You play off of them. So you have to pay attention to what other people do, anticipate what they do, so that you can do better. Cartagena, one of his earliest designs, you'll have pirates that are moving along a path to get to a boat first. It's like a slightly more complicated game than Leapfrog, where you're playing cards to move pirates on symbols, but if a certain symbol is covered, you go to the next symbol. You go to the next symbol. So ideally, you chain all your cards together and make people jump at once, but you jump over other people's pirates as well. You just have to use your cards better by taking advantage of what they've done. Or his games Clans and Familien Banda, you are a color in the game, secretly, no one knows until the end of the game, and the actions that people take will score points for all the colors over the course of play. Whoever ends up with the most points wins, but who is which color? You watch what people do. Try to capitalize on that. So again, you're using their moves in order to benefit yourself. Or Holdach Mau, it's kind of a crazy hits game where each player has their own pile that they're playing on to. But you have to watch out for your neighbors, because if you could play on their pile instead of yours, you must do so. Or his games, Alexandros, Masons, and Castello Mattoni, all three of them, you have a shared landscape that you are now carving up into pieces. There's different ways you're doing it for different reasons, different scoring methods, but the principle is all the same. Shared landscape. So pay attention. Divide it up just the right way. Anticipate what other people are going to do. It's all good stuff. In late 2023, the game KuZOOka was announced by Pegasus Spiele, a cooperative game by Leo Colovini. He's done cooperative before. There's a game Leo. It won a Game of the Year, Children's Game of the Year in Germany, where you were trying to give a lion a haircut. Very simple, straightforward, very cool. Well, now this is for families, a bit more involved. Let's take a look at it, see how this fares. In general, favorable. Like it. Lots to enjoy here, with some qualifications that we'll get to. Here's the game board and the components for KuZOOka, which, as the rules state, is a Swahili word meaning breakout. You are all representing animals in a zoo, and you are trying to escape. Seems like a good idea. Who wants to be in a zoo? However, you are going to have to use trash discarded by humans in order to manage your breakout. Yes, as in classic movie style. You're using refuse, stitching it all together to make tools to help you escape, but in a very abstract way. Each of you is going to be a different animal. The suggested animals, eagle and snake, for a 2-player game, and then chameleon for a 3-player game, and so on. Or you can just deal them out randomly. Each animal has its own power. You're going to have tokens to represent yourself, and you're going to get a hand of cards. The initial level, you start with, in a 2 to 4-player game, 20 cards from this deck, with the makeup of the cards being indicated here, 6 yellow, 7 red, and so on. You get 20 cards, you deal them out. Maybe you'll have one card more than someone else or less. Doesn't matter. But whoever is first in the game is going to look at their cards, and they're going to take a token and indicate something on the board in this first zone of 5 symbols about their hand. Maybe they just start here, saying they have at least 1 orange card. Maybe they have only 1, but maybe they have more. You don't know at this time. And the next player, okay, I've got 2 green. Maybe they have tons of green. They have to place somewhere ahead of the previous player in the current zone or in the next zone. This eagle could jump all the way to here. They have 3 purple. They really want to show a strength of purple. They could do that. But now no one can place in these spaces. So possibly you're cutting off the ability of people to learn information. Maybe they just go here. And then if the chameleon goes 3, oh, well, now you're working together. You each know that you can help with purple. And then orange comes along, the snake, and says, 2 red. Apparently they have no purple, or they want to give an alternate path, because what you're trying to do is pool your tools together, share that information, and then at a certain point you're going to check to see how accurate your information passing is. You can't talk about what you have in your hand. This is the communication that you have in your hand. You're animals. You have no lips, except that the special powers can help you do things to manipulate your hand or share information with one another in one way or another. So let's ignore the animals for now. Eventually you're going to, at a certain point, feel that you've done all you can. Maybe you get up to here. Sure, we'll do that. You get to 5 purple, and the next player, the bald eagle, decides they don't feel confident going any higher. So they say, okay, let's check what we have. Everyone reveals all of their cards, and if you have at least 5 purple among all of your cards, great. You get 9 stars, showing evidence of your ability to work together. And you put that on the side. There you go. And for every 8 stars you get, you can unlock a new level. So when you start the second round of the game, now you're going to get 21 cards dealt out, with an additional 1 card being face up. Public information that everyone knows. So now you have more cards in hand. One thing is public. Ideally, you can get a little farther and score more stars in the future. Again, every 8 stars gets you a new level that you unlock. So get up here, now it's 22 cards with 2 face up, and so on. Your goal by the end of 7 rounds is to get to one of these 6 spaces at the end and correctly identify what you have in your hand. Now, a couple of things. If you look at these numbers, you'll notice 7 red, that's all the red. That's all the orange. That's all but one of the purple. You are not going to draw that many cards into your hand, so it's a bit of a challenge for you to actually get to these numbers. 7 yellow, you don't even have 7 yellow in the deck. How's that going to happen? Well, 2 ways for how you get to these endpoints here. First, if you guess exactly, if you have exactly 5 purple, you get the 9 stars, and as a bonus, you get this universal tool, which is a joker. It's every color. So, cool. That helps you tremendously to meet different levels along the path, different locations. Definitely helps towards the end game. And if they're face up, then that's even better, because now you all know that, rather than just you knowing it privately. Aside from that, you have the animal powers. Once per round, you can use your power, and then it's done for the end of that round. So the eagle can ask one player, do you have at least X cards of this color? So the eagle, on their turn, they could ask the chameleon, do you have at least 3 purple? Okay. And if the chameleon says yes, okay, the chameleon's got 3 purple. I have 1 or more purple. I can at least go here and say 4 purple. Yes. So use that information. If the chameleon says no, they don't have 3 purple, maybe they have 0, 1, 2. You don't know what they have, but at least it's not 3. And maybe you actually only have 1 purple. You just thought you'd go here to show purple. So now between you, you know you have at most 3 purple. And you're like, I'm not going to go here. I'll do something else. I'll go here. Or maybe I've got an orange. We'll go here because Snake said orange. You're giving information away about what's in your hand, and everyone learned what was in the snake's hand, the chameleon's hand, by you asking that question. Okay, it's one simple thing to do. Ask a question. That's very straightforward, but the ramifications of that are somewhat complicated, because you have to ask the right question that's relevant to your hand, relevant to theirs, and then you are communicating based on where you put your token. It's a lot of stuff that happens as a result of that one question. So it's a tool that you can use well, or that you can possibly throw away, depending on how you ask. So the snake, at the beginning of their turn, they can throw away their hand of cards and then they draw one fewer card from the deck. So if they throw away 6 cards, they only draw 5. Maybe they were not helping. Everyone else is on the purple train and Snake has nothing to contribute. And they're like, well, let me throw away my cards. Maybe I'm going to get some purple. Oh, I got a Joker, which should not be mixed in the deck right now. But hey, I got 2 purple. Now I can jump in on purple as well and help us go farther. Okay, that's Snake's ability. Chameleon, you get to draw a card, add it to your hand, and then throw away a card. So not as extreme as the Snake, a little filtering, maybe you get exactly what you need. Other animals let you do different things. The seal lets you place while ignoring the zone restriction. Normally you must place ahead or in the next zone, and the seal can just go anywhere. So maybe the seal after the fact is just like 2 orange. I'll just give an alternate approach to what we're doing here. Or sometimes the seal player will just jump way ahead. They got a hand with 4 orange in it, and they're like, I just want to indicate we can do this based on that. Okay, that's a drastic, bold move here. You also leave out a lot of spaces, and so what other information could you have gathered? Maybe you could actually go to 6 or 7. Who knows? Now you're going to force the hand of the next person by jumping to such measure. The sloth, when you take your turn, you don't have to place a marker or call for a revelation of the cards. You can just say, pass. You're comfortable where things are. That's it. It's kind of a null move. It's okay. Parrot, you can place where someone else is. I do not know which token is the parrot. We'll say this one. That's clearly the lion. Anyway, you are going to place here. You're parroting someone else. I also agree with 5 orange. The elephant lets you choose the next player. The rhino, you place 2 tokens together. The lion, you take a card from your hand and put it underneath the lion, and then you add that to your hand next time. So if no one has said yellow, maybe you tuck away a yellow and then you'll have a yellow next time. Maybe you'll get more as well. So those are the animal powers. And by the end of the 7th round, as I mentioned, you have to have done this. You can increase the difficulty of the game by making it harder to unlock a new level. Instead of 8, the gate has risen. Now you need 10 stars. Now you need 12 stars. Theoretically, you can do whatever you want here. If you want to make it easier, make it 6 stars. You can adjust that as you wish. But here's the starting point, 8. With 5 players, you're going to start at this level. 6 players, this level. Because now you have more cards total, but you'll have fewer cards personally because they're scattered among more people. And then if you're really good at that, if you have succeeded with this game a few times, you can go to the more difficult side of the board. Yes, previously it ended with this 7, 9, 8 up to here. Now the path goes a little further. And none of these are possible without jokers. You are forcing yourself to get jokers in order to win. Whew. You get more stars as you go along, but this is hard. The other side's already hard. I played 7 times. I think we won a couple times. I am not ready to go to the advanced side yet. I played KuZOOka 7 times in a review copy from Pegasus Spiele with 3, 4, and 5 players. Haven't yet tried with 2, which for some reason seems less appealing to me because you'll have half the information in your hand, and yet I love playing the Mind with 2 players, and that's also a cooperative game in which you have limited communication between players. So I should actually play it instead of just having that assumption, but I haven't yet. Haven't tried with 6, which could be really difficult for a reason I'll talk about in a moment. But 3, 4, and 5, it's been a fine experience. As I mentioned, we won a couple times. Other times, you just fail. And you can definitely see the failure coming because if you don't succeed in the first few rounds, you're not getting stars, you're not unlocking new levels and getting more cards in the game. So you're playing another round with the same number of cards. And it can be somewhat frustrating because you're like, didn't we just do this? You'll have a different set of cards in your hand and different clues that people are putting out with their tokens, and yet it feels sort of the same. And you're a little inspired to gamble a bit more than you should possibly, because you're like, well, we lost a round and now we have to make up for it. So we're going to push a little farther, see if we can get maybe a few more stars to help us progress down the path. And then you fail again. And if you fail a few times, well, you're probably not going to make it so you have enough cards in the deck or enough universal tools as jokers to even succeed, to even possibly succeed without the random luck of all the green cards being dealt out to people. So you can see that failure coming. It can be a little dispiriting. If you recognize another game in my description of this, it's not by chance, really. If you played Liar's Poker or Liar's Dice, you will recognize this gameplay where each player has a limited bit of information and you're pooling all the information together to see what people have collectively. It's a standard public domain game that you can play, Liar's Poker. Everyone just has a dollar bill. You're trying to make claims of how many numbers there are among all the bills in play. That's the game that Richard Borg took and then iterated on to make Liar's Dice. Okay? And now this is effectively a Liar's Dice with special powers in which are animals. Works differently than Liar's Dice. It's a very different feel, mostly because in Liar's Dice it's competitive. You are saying things. You are trying to trick people. You are not trying to cooperate and work together with them. However, let me talk about two things that cause complications with KuZOOka and lead to some less than ideal circumstances. One involves communication with other players. And this is not a game design issue so much as it's a game player issue. I've seen other people comment that they tried the game with 5 and 6 players, absolutely hated it, will never play again. And I can understand why that might be the case, because if you are the 6th player in a game, the first player can go anywhere in here. The second player can go anywhere in here. The third player, if the second player plays here, the third player can go anywhere here. And again, 4th player, 5th player. By the time it gets to your turn, depending on how people are playing, you may be up at this level, which is a lot. And you have contributed nothing to the conversation. You've not given a clue as to what you have. So every person plays once, and then suddenly, boom, you're up here, and you have to decide whether to go on with 6 purple. You don't have any purple. Were other people saying purple? What consensus do you have? It's more a player issue, because people are not being considerate of their fellow players and giving more people a chance to share information. The first player goes, and then I have 3 purple in my hand, and I immediately jump to 3 purple, skipping all of this. Maybe they said 2 green. I didn't have to go to 3 purple. I could go to 2 purple. I could go to 1 red. You can reveal the information over time, right? Shedding the layers of the onion and having a better idea of what that onion salad looks like. You have all those onions together. Don't jump ahead so much. And I've played with people who have done that. Went to a game group, played with people I had never played with before, and some of them were just jumping. And we failed because we had very little coordination among us. But I didn't tell them that. I wanted to see if people would discover on their own that they need to pull back on their guesses. They never did, and we failed. Okay. That's how it can leave a sour first experience, is you look like you have no chance and you have very little participation in the game as the 6th player. So you're just like, why would I ever do this again? It can happen. And it's because the rules are written in such a way that players have the freedom to play as they wish, even poorly. There are examples in the rules that go through very clearly why someone... They give examples of 3 players taking their turns and the reasoning why they might want to do something. And in that reasoning, it's made very clear that you might not want to jump ahead quite so much. Maybe go a little more. Be conservative more in what you're doing so everyone can participate and slowly you gel together into that consensus. So be hesitant when playing this with 5 or 6 people unless you give that heads up. I have not I didn't do it because I wanted to see what happens. I like playing games repeatedly and seeing how the dynamic of players changes over time. But some people had a first experience they didn't like. Done. Don't want to play again. What else do you have, Eric? So that's a drawback. Drawback because games these days often seem like they're designed for this ideal first game experience where you're going to have something positive come out of it, and this thing lets you fail. Okay. I don't know. I'm cool with it. Maybe other people aren't. Now, the second thing to talk about, well, let me get out a Sharpie and I will demonstrate what could be better about this game. Let's look at the game board once again. It's an extremely busy design meant to represent a zoo environment. You've got a path through the zoo. You've got lots of exhibits on the side showing different animals. You got other features from the zoo. Okay, that's all pretty muted to highlight the path that you're moving on, the important gameplay element. It could be a little more muted just to make this pop a bit more. You have the symbols, different symbol for each color to aid players who have color blindness. So ideally you can see the difference between them all in your hand and on the board. And yet I've had people who had trouble distinguishing between certain colors because it's a paw, it's a paw, it's a paw. It could be somewhat similar. I don't have color blindness issues, so I can't say exactly what problems they had, but they had some difficulty. So if they were more extreme in their differences, or they had other symbols on there, but that's adding even another layer of something on the board. But again, I've had people with color blindness issues. A bigger problem with playing on the board is that people will place a token and they'll just put it right in the middle. And they'll put it in the middle. And at a certain point, you're just like, what is this? If you don't have the board memorized, you don't know what this is. And so I would have to be the token police and just like keep moving things to the side so that other people can see and try to hope people get the hint and stop doing that. But then the next player will just do this and you're like, arr. Ideally, the board would be designed a bit differently. You got the stars on the upper left here and on the upper right everywhere else. Not sure why they switched from one side to the other. But ideally, the stars would be in a consistent place. And then you'd also just have a circle or something where you would put your token. This could be shaded even lighter or alternatively completely black. And then when you put your token on there, you will know that it's an eagle because you can see it more clearly. It's going to pop against the background depending on the size of the space. Maybe I need bigger circles. Maybe I need whiter circles. Maybe I need bigger tokens. Not clear. But we had a problem where people would just put it on the thing that then you can't see. There you go. You want to keep track of who is bidding what. So you need some clarity in the player who plays something as well as where they played it. And under this current setup, that often doesn't happen. But if you put the space there for people to put their token in a particular location, people will do that, right? It's that idea of giving players knowledge of what to do just by the graphic design itself. You put that there and put your token on that space. You're probably not just going to plop it in the middle and leave that open. Okay, so that's the main board element here. It's a little busy, and then this token thing drove me crazy because people would keep doing it, and other people had asked for that to be fixed. You also have the card issue. All right. They have different images on them. You do have this where possibly you are reading these the same way, okay? But why not make it double indexed, right? Where you have this on the other side. You have this round on the other side so that however you pick up your cards, you don't have to orient them and fix them all. More importantly, you have a reminder card for how many cards of each color in the deck, but it's not on the cards themselves. This should say 6, this should say 10, and so on. And then this way as well. Because then I don't have to refer to this all the time to know how many of this color are in the deck. I can look at my hand. If I've got 3 blue, I know I have 3 of the 9 in the game. It makes it much more straightforward to do things, to figure out what you should do and what smart bid you have. If a card is face up on the table, all right, if this is on the table, you know this is 1 of 6. There's only 5 possibly among the other players, at most, except if you got the Joker. Then you got the Joker, and ideally it would as well do something. 6, 11, 9, and so forth. Some universal tool, just something. I get it. You want to have this fun element here, right? It's the Swiss Army knife. It can do anything. It effectively mimics a coin and popcorn. Again, I'm not sure how you're using popcorn to get out, but whatever, right? A spoon. But add some additional helpful information to make the game easier to play. Colovini puts themes on games, or maybe the publisher puts themes on games, or the artist, abstract designer, I'm not sure. But the theming and setting is not really the strength of his games. It's the simple rules and the interactivity. I can imagine I'm the animal doing this, and it all works out, but I can also just completely ignore all that and just be like, I care about who has blue and green and orange and so on. I don't have to worry if it's particularly popsicle sticks. Okay, so that's the card element. Make them double indexed, add numbers, so that I don't even need this necessarily. I can still keep it in front of me, but lots of people were referencing it continually throughout gameplay. You then have this element here, where it is a very small typeface. And so you have to pick it up and read it, and then remember it. And if there was some icon up here, and again, I know you want the animals and make cards prettier, but is there another way to do it? Just be a little more helpful, where I look around the table and I can see what people do. Okay, so there's that. I think that's all my design issues, but it just seemed like the graphic design could facilitate play much better by giving us somewhere to place the tokens and a way to use the cards more easily to just play intuitively. You're supposed to use a token of an unused animal up here to keep track of the round. Okay, that's not a big deal, but it kind of feels like it'd be nice if there were just one more token in the game to be a round marker. All right, I know that's one extra component, but you also have 120 little animal bits here that are often hard to distinguish. It's not really that important, all right? You can look at these and you're just like, wait, what is that? I guess, oh, that's a monkey. Is this the parrot? I think that's the parrot. Elephant's a gimme. But that, I think maybe is the sloth. Yeah, I guess that's the sloth. They're so small to fit on the spaces, and yet they cover what's important. So you kind of want them smaller, but you kind of want them bigger to see them better and to know who is which animal, because I need to correspond that to this. Love the gameplay. Not a fan of the overall graphic design choices here. And that's possibly more than you ever wanted to know about what Eric thinks of KuZOOka, a design that I really like playing and wish there were some tweaks to make it a little easier to play. I love the challenge of playing with people who don't initially get it. It's a little bit of a hurdle. Liar's Dice is more straightforward because all you have is dice with numbers or pips on them and a star, and it's all about bluffing other people and lying. Those are common human traits. You possibly have used those skills in the past, and now you're putting them to service in the game. And it's very straightforward to look at the dice you have and then say something and make a bid, a claim about what's out there. That's a little more straightforward than KuZOOka, which adds this extra element of the animal powers and the specificity of getting to a certain point and then succeeding in order to get the stars and it unlock the next level. As I mentioned, if you don't unlock anything for a few times, just pack it up, restart, do whatever. There should possibly be a rule about that. But again, the rules are pretty minimal and they're open. They're not directing you how to play. You're supposed to discover how to play. Discover how to play well. How to play is straightforward. How to play well, a lot of times haven't quite got that yet. But ideally, we'll play some more. Maybe with 2 players now, maybe with 6. Maybe give people advice or just force them to play again until they get it. Or complain openly. You're not supposed to talk about what you have in your hand, but maybe at one point you're just like, why'd you jump so far ahead? You gotta give me room. Give me some space to breathe. Do my own thing. I'm an animal too. I need to tell you what I have.